Welcome to episode 25 of Life Without Cravings. So it's a new year, which means that we will hear all sorts of things about diets in the next few weeks. We will hear about their effectiveness, we will hear about the best diets, the worst diets. There will be tons of lists of the best diets that you should be trying out in 2023. And every year we have the same thing coming up. There is the nutritionists and the doctors and the dietitians that someone has quoted saying things like low carb diets aren't sustainable because they are too restrictive, so people can't stick with them. And therefore you should just aim to eat a more balanced diet. I bet you heard that one before. And we hear this and we think of these as facts, when in reality it's just a bunch of opinions which has absolutely no connection to reality. So I'm going to show you a screenshot I took. This is a typical thing that you would see and if you go search this online. And if you're listening to the podcast version, I'm going to read it for you. A 2009 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that it doesn't really matter how much fat, protein, and carbohydrates dieters consume. Any diet can be successful if it's healthy and easy to maintain. That was the important part. So this is so interesting. Like, what does that actually say? It doesn't say much at all. It makes me laugh because that statement is so ridiculous, and obviously it's full of value judgments. So there is no facts in there other than that the study was done in 2009. So what they are actually saying here is that any diet can be successful if it's easy to maintain. And then they added that bit, if it's healthy, which is complete bullshit, because healthy is just a value statement. It's based on their judgments and their beliefs of what healthy is. So whether the diet is healthy or not has absolutely nothing to do with the likelihood of your success following that diet. Any diet, whether it's healthy or not, can be successful if it's easy to maintain for you, right? So this is what I would like to focus on in today's episode, how easy it is to maintain a specific diet. Let's get rid of that again. We have a lot of thoughts about that. The first time I tried a carnivore diet, I was like, that must be the hardest diet on earth to succeed with. It must be so hard that if I can do that, I can literally do any diet. I can do anything, even though I do like meat and I don't really like beans and such things. So I'm not sure, actually. I think a vegan diet would be a lot harder for me to do. So you might think that a diet is more or less easy to maintain, depending on what foods are allowed on that diet and how you feel about those foods, what foods you like to eat. But I'm going to show you how this isn't necessarily true. So I have a friend who's a vegetarian, is also a dietitian, and she's very health conscious. I have been low carb for 17-18 years and I'm a nutritionist. We both have some background in nutrition, different trainings, but both backgrounds in nutrition, and we both care about our health, and we are both doing what we think is best for our health. I'm a ketovore. I am probably 90% plus carnivore, but not 100%. So when I think about going on a vegetarian diet, I am convinced that I could never do it. When I was in my early 20s, I actually thought that I would like to be vegetarian. I would like to eat more vegetarian food. But at that age already, I knew that I could not become a vegetarian. And I sort of excused myself almost, like, I'm sorry, but I don't think I can do that because I just like meat too much. And I was very picky with my food, and I still am to some degree, not as much. So there weren't many vegetables that I would ever touch because I was like, I don't like those. I would try to mask their taste. I put them in a spaghetti bolognese, for example, and I would just like mash them to death with lots of spices so I wouldn't notice that they were there because I thought it was healthy to have them in there. I tried to eat more vegetables, but I didn't actually like them much. And I do not like beans. Like, if you're a vegetarian and you don't like beans, then you're gonna have to eat things like tofu, which is completely tasteless, boring as hell. I mean, like, I can't even imagine being on a vegetarian diet. So I wouldn't have been able to stick with a vegetarian diet for very long. And not if I wanted to maintain my protein needs anyway. So I never even attempted it. Because a vegetarian diet just felt like too restrictive for me. Other people would be like, oh my god, how can you think that that is restrictive? There's so many things to choose from. But it was too restrictive for me because I couldn't eat the foods that I actually like, that are palatable to me. So when I talk about nutrition with my friend, I always try to get her to eat more eggs, and maybe eat fish, etc. Because I think that that would be good for her. And that's my belief. And she doesn't understand my diet at all. She can't even conceive of eating a super low carb meat based diet. That's just not, it's like, how can you do it? She doesn't get it. She's telling me that meat makes her feel heavy, whatever that means. And even fish to some degree. So when I first got to know her, she ate fish probably 2 or 3 times per week, but she rarely does it now because her partner is vegan. So it's a miracle that she's eating eggs at all. She very rarely eats fish, and she's telling me that just vegetables, it makes her feel light, and she's full of energy, and it makes her feel healthy and fresh and all of these things, like airy fairy in my opinion. So her belief is that eating meat just makes her feel heavy, and it's not as healthy as vegetarian food, because that's her belief, that vegetables are the most healthy thing that you can eat. And she wants to feel energetic. She wants to feel light. She doesn't want to feel heavy and like there's too much food in her stomach, because then she's going to miss out on all of these benefits that she's convinced that she's getting because of her diet, which is energy, feeling light, etc. So therefore, as such a diet as like a carnivore diet or even a keto diet that is meat-based would not be sustainable for her, because she would go into such a diet thinking that it won't feel good, and I already have a diet that is great for me. So there's like no motivation to stick with such a diet. Whereas I would think that if I was going on a vegetarian diet, I would be eating a nutrient-poor diet that would just make me go poop 3 times per day and force me to eat all the time, because I know that such a diet wouldn't make me feel satiated, and I would probably be hungry all the time, and that just triggers me to keep eating, and I would be like a grazing machine. I wouldn't stop eating. So that's obviously not something that I want in my life. I'm just thinking like, what a pain in the ass that would be, literally. We're 2 people, we have 2 different beliefs and 2 different opinions about what a restrictive diet looks like. So when someone says that low carb diets are too restrictive and they always fail, you know that that is not the truth. It's not even a myth, to be honest. It's just a statement that someone has made, possibly based on their personal opinion, which suits the narrative and the diet industry, mind you. But it could also be like, you're just teaching people these things, that vegetables are the best things to eat and they're super healthy and everyone should be eating more vegetarian, and let's go have vegan days in our schools and whatnot. Like all of those things. If that is the truth, I'm going to do air quotes, if that is the truth, then yeah, they're correct. And yes, of course, if you believed in that, then a low carb keto or carnivore diet would be too restrictive. And because it's the narrative, it's being repeated over and over again to try to brainwash you into believing that it's true. Because the more times you hear that message, the more likely you are to start believing it. What you want to do is just make up your own opinion about the diet that you want to be on, and start reminding yourself of what your opinion is until you believe yourself. Because you don't want someone else to tell you what to believe and then start believing it because they are just nagging in your ear all the time. Nag in your own ear and decide what you want to believe. If you want to do a keto or a carnivore diet, it is not too restrictive for you unless you believe these so-called experts that are telling you that those diets are too restrictive and you will fail. You will have all the nutrients that you want or need in such a diet, as opposed to a vegan diet where you will have to take a lot of supplements. How can this be the less restrictive diet? It doesn't make sense to me. Just want to point that out. But what if I tell you that these diets, low carb, keto, carnivore, they are perfect for you if you want to maintain your health and your weight throughout your life, and you will succeed because you will feel so damn good that once you're on the diet, you won't want to quit. Will you believe that? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. You can choose if you want to believe it based on your knowledge. That's always an option. But to be honest, me telling you that is just as much of a lie as when someone tells you that those diets are restrictive, because it's based on my opinion. And that's the point I want to make. I can tell you that all I want all day long, and you may or may not believe me, and it has nothing to do with whether that is the truth or not. Just what I believe and what you believe. Because what decides if it's too restrictive is how you think about it, not how I think about it, or some clown on internet thinks about it. It's about how you think about it. And I can tell you how I think that you should be thinking about it. But unless you want to think about it that way, whatever I say isn't going to be true for you. So when we go and just like feel like this is too restrictive, but I want to be on that diet, stop listening to that voice that tells you that it's too restrictive, because it's giving you all the nutrients that you need, pretty much, unless you are deficient in something already. Then it might not be enough. So the only thing that will make something restrictive for you is you thinking that it's restrictive. So if you know that a low-carb diet is the best diet for you and you would love to be able to stick with it, but you're feeling like going to be too restrictive, let's just change that, because we can. We can change it right now, today. So let's just start changing that belief around right now. There's no point in waiting. The first thing you want to do is just to answer this question. Why would it be amazing to stick with a low-carb, keto or carnivore diet? Have a little think about that one. Why would it be amazing to stick with that diet? Maybe it's because you will feel free when you don't have to count calories, or you don't have to weigh your food anymore, or you don't have to eat 6 times per day. Maybe you have a lot more energy. You will be able to come off of your diabetic medications and so on. Why would it be amazing for you? Collectively, took everyone's answers. We had a massive list of all the benefits from eating this way. You have to find your own. So I have 4 questions for you. So the second question is, then ask yourself how this can be the most sustainable diet for you. That's a really good question, because you're going to answer that question, find out how it's going to be the most sustainable diet for you. It's super simple. It will save me time every day in the kitchen. You will have less dishes, which is awesome if you don't have a dishwasher. You don't have to plan and prepare all the snacks that you need every 3 hours. You always know what to eat. You don't have to have that discussion. And it's what nourishes your body the most. You might become more efficient at both at home and at work when you have more energy. And then everything in your life is going to be easy. Maybe that's why. And the third question, how is this not a restrictive diet for you? Like, how is it the opposite of a restrictive diet for you? For me, it's because it gives me freedom to choose food for my health, and it doesn't feed my addiction. And being addicted to carbs is the most restrictive thing that I have ever experienced when it comes to food. There's nothing more restrictive to me than being a slave to the carbs. And eating this way is just helping me along the way. It reduces those physiological cravings. And I have the freedom to just create the level of health and well-being that I want in my life when I'm not addicted to the carbs. When I remove those shackles, the world is my oyster. And it's actually the opposite of being a restrictive diet for me. It gives me freedom to choose. For me, not for the government or the cereal company's pockets. It gives me freedom to choose for me. And the fourth thing that I want you to ask yourself is, why would you never want to quit eating this way? I don't ever want to quit eating this way because I want to live my life. Like, live my life. I don't want to just exist. I want to actually live it. I don't want to be all about just stuffing myself full of carbs and feeling like crap on a daily basis. I want to be healthy, I want to be functional, and I want to do that for the rest of my life. I want to be one of those super old people that just continues living life as if they were 40 years or younger, and they just refuse to get old. And I want to be able to do and create the life that I want to live, and I cannot do that when I'm addicted to carbs because it prevents me from doing anything in life. I just become passive and nothing happens. I can sit and dream about things all day long, but nothing changes because all I can think about and actually do is stuff myself full of carbs. And being on this diet will allow me to do that. So if you answer those 4 questions for yourself, you will quickly see that if this is a sustainable diet for you, you will see how it's actually sustainable. You will notice if you actually really truly don't believe that it's sustainable for you, you're going to notice it when you're answering these 4 questions. And if there are some question marks, like you're not really sure, then just try and figure out what they are. Because now I gave you 4 brilliant questions. When you have those answers, look at them, figure it out, because there's always a solution to everything. And then maybe you have some uncertainties around certain things. Figure out what they are based on. Maybe they are based on irrational fears, in which case you might want to work on that. Or maybe they're just not in alignment with what you want in your life, in which case you shouldn't be doing that diet. So if you want some help working through all of this and just creating a sustainable way of living a low carb life where you get to decide in what direction your life is heading, consider joining the group Quitting for the Last Time, where I teach you how to quit the carbs permanently. It's an awesome group. The people in there are lovely. They have such good questions, and you get to take part of everything that they're learning as well. And we'll just go through everything. We'll create the life that you want by getting rid of your carb addiction. Because when the addiction is under control, what is happening is that there's nothing actually standing in your way anymore. You can just start becoming superhuman the way that you probably want to feel. The only thing that is in your way is your mind. We're working a lot on your mind. And you've seen today how you can shift your thinking by just asking yourself a few helpful questions. Just imagine what your life could be like if you start thinking this way about pretty much everything in your life that you desire. How far could you go if you started doing that? So if you're curious about that, head over to pimjansson.com/group and you'll find all the details about the course there. You can sign up there if you want to, or you can just read more about it. If you want to talk to me about it, send me an email at pim@pimjansson.com. I'm always happy to answer questions or hop on a call with you. And you can find all of those contact details down in the show notes. And that was pretty much all I had for you today. So go do this work and let me know what you have found out about yourself and your beliefs when it comes to sticking with your low carb diet. And leave me a comment. Please do let me know what you found out, because I love hearing from you and I love seeing when you're growing. So I'll see you next week. Bye!